Okay, so here we are. I've got my dough rolled out to its working height or thickness, whatever, of about 1/4 inch. That is my oven. It's preheated to 425 degrees because I'm going to bake a thing for you in a bit. But first I'm going to grab the pizza cutter. Here's the piece that we're going to be working with today. Just add a little bit of flour. Don't want them to be sticky. So let's talk about a couple of rules for dealing with puff pastry. First of all, a really important rule is you always want to bake cut sides. If you try and bake a corner where the dough has been folded and folded and folded, what's going to happen is it's going to puff up and it's going to be like this weird open book, which I guess if that's what you're going for, then that's great. But if you want it to rise up evenly, you want all of your sides to be cut. I'm not going to throw away these little edges, by the way. What I'm probably going to do with them is throw down either some Parmesan cheese with some herbs or something in it, or some cinnamon sugar or sugar with orange zest in it, something like that. Roll them out a little more thinly on both sides so that sugar gets impregnated or the cheese gets impregnated on both sides, and then I'm going to take them and cut them to a reasonable length, twist them up, and then we'll have cute little either wee little straws to go with a cup of coffee or just for a light dessert or something, maybe a garnish for some ice cream, or basically little cheese straws, that you could just serve with a dinner. So no waste. Now I can do a bunch of stuff with this. I can use this whole thing as a tart shell. I could use it as a rustic tart shell even. Pile some fruit right here and just pull up the edges. Sprinkle, maybe brush it with some milk, sprinkle it with some demerara sugar or something, throw it in the oven, and we'll have this beautiful rustic kind of fruit galette. That would be kind of nice. I think what I want to do is just have something very, very simple to begin with. So I'm going to go grab my cutters and I'm going to show you how to build a little puff pastry shell. All the pieces I cut, I'm going to turn them upside down, throw them in the fridge for 30 minutes, then I'm going to build my little tart shell, and then we're going to throw them in the oven. Okay, got my cutters. This is going to be the base, and this is going to be the opening for whatever's going to go in the center of them. I'm going to push straight down. Once I hit the table, and twist just a little bit. So there's one. Don't want to waste this stuff. You took a long time. It took a long time to make it. So make it count. You want to cut as close to the edges and as close to each other as you can to minimize the waste. And now I'm just going to cut out the circle in the center of the second one. Okay. Now all of those guys are going to go into the fridge, like I said, upside down for 30 minutes. Now I'm going to build it and bake it. I'm going to continue cutting. I think I'll also show you a croissant. It'll be awesome. So I'll be back. Okay, for the croissant, what you want is like a long, skinny triangle. So there we go. So, hope you can see this. I'm going to cut like a little notch in the short end of the croissant. That's just going to give room to pull it out a little bit like this. Pull it out. Make sure there's no flour on it. And then literally it's just a roll. There's one. I'm going to make two. So you can tell if you just use this dough to make nothing but croissants, you're not going to have any waste at all. Little cut, pull, and roll. You don't want to roll real tightly. Just going to roll it. Curve it so it has that croissant-y kind of shape. Leave your little tip on the bottom so it doesn't come sprawling out and look really stupid when you bake it. Still going to taste good, but you want it to look pretty. I'll save these scraps for the tart that I'm going to make, and I can cut out like with cute little leaves and stuff with all these little scraps. So I'm going to clean this business up, let these guys hang out in the fridge for a little bit, and while these are hanging out in the fridge, I'll do the time-lapse baking of those little shells that I made. Alright, so see you in a minute. Okay, so I hope you can see what I have here. This bowl just has some half and half in it. This bowl has some egg wash. It's just an egg yolk with a little bit of water. Just took a fork, whisked it up. This is my Belgian candy sugar that I bought at the brewing store. It looks like this. I put it in a Ziploc bag and bashed it with my rolling pin, and it's all sparkly and beautiful. So I'm going to use that on a couple of the sweet guys that I'm making. Okay, so how you build these guys? First of all, you want to be pretty careful. You want to use the egg wash as glue, but you don't want the egg wash to run down the sides of your guys, because if it does that, then it could potentially impede the rise. It could end up gluing the sides together, and that is not at all what we want. So, as you can see, I am using a very, very little bit of this egg wash as glue. Remember, I turned them all upside down, been in the fridge for half an hour. This guy goes right on top. And then again, a very, very conservative amount of egg wash. And how cute is that? Alright, so that's how I build them. I'm going to go ahead and do 3 more. And then these 2 little guys, I took my razor blade and just cut part way through. These are going to be sweet. So I'm going to brush them with half and half. And then I'm going to sprinkle them with my cool sugar. One of the nice things about puff pastry is it doesn't spread out, it spreads up. So that means that you can pretty much keep your guys close together. You want to have enough space in between them that some air can circulate. But otherwise, you can put them way closer together than you could, say, cookies or something. Alright, fun little icing sugar, or candy sugar rather. Alright, now I learned in school to bake these guys with a piece of parchment on top to help them rise up straight. I'm not going to do that today because I don't think many people actually do that. So if you want to, by all means, give it a shot. But I'm going to pass on that today. So as you can see, our guys are out of the oven. It is quite obvious why the learned professors at my culinary school told us to put a piece of paper on top of these guys so they don't look like slinkies. But still, you'll notice how much they rose. I'm pretty impressed. I'm also thinking that had I not done the mystical 7 turns, they would have risen higher. But I did, if you'll notice, one of these 4 guys is missing because I ate one. crispy and delightful. But you can remember how tiny these guys were to begin with. What you do, because see how the puff has risen up inside there? You just want to take a little knife and hollow those guys out, because gummy, undercooked puff pastry is really not very tasty. So you want to get rid of all of that stuff. If you look at these two that I did sweet, they're a little bit darker, of course, because the sugar caramelized on top. I don't know if you can see the little design that happened because I sliced part way through. Kind of cool. So a little trick that you can use for some added decoration if and when you make puff pastry, or if you just have some store-bought puff pastry that you want to experiment with. So anyway, the croissants are in the oven. I will snap a picture of those later and add those to the video, but this should do it for now. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode of PMAT Live, all about making puff pastry and giving you some different ideas about what to do with puff pastry once you have made it. Anyway, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.